Hi again guys, and welcome to another installment of Rivals, the series where we pit two or more natural rivals in a head-to-head versus match, more for the fun of it than to find out which one is actually better, because of course when you're talking numbers, the better car isn't necessarily always the quicker car. The Dodge Viper, for instance, will beat most vehicles for pure engine size, but a vehicle with a smaller engine, like a rotary, can still be a great car. So bigger numbers aren't always the best, it's just fun to compare them. Now this particular matchup is between two monsters, two Can-Am monsters, one of which never actually raced, and the other which is one of the most technically impressive cars ever. The Chaparral 2J and the Toyota 7. And as always, I have put reviews and tunes for both of these cars in the description below if you want more info. But for now, let's get into it. First up we have the Toyota 7. Now this has, for all of the time that it's been on Gran Turismo, been a strong car purely for numbers. It's ultra lightweight, extremely powerful, it looks the part. It's not overly expensive, given the fact that it is historically significant, makes a great collector's piece, but also a great competition machine. Now this car never actually raced in the Can-Am, which is kind of a shame, but at least we do have the opportunity to use it on Gran Turismo. Now on Gran Turismo 6, the Toyota 7 has one of the highest PP levels of any real race car in the game. 757 pp is extremely high, and it's not difficult to see why. At 620 kilos with 1170 horsepower, of course it's going to be high, but that really is high. That's far higher than the Audi R10, the Peugeot 908, in fact any of the real Le Mans prototypes, and the only vehicles which are higher than this are stuff like Red Bulls, the Chaparral 2X, of course the Tomahawks, that kind of thing. Thankfully for this car though, especially for its age, it does actually live up to that. The top speed is around 290 with the right gearing, and the handling, though slippery, is very competitive. Overall, it's a strong car and a very popular one. Now though, let's consider the Chaparral. Now, I would say that the 2J actually makes a perfect nemesis to the Toyota 7. The Toyota has a very old school, simplified mechanical approach with lightweight construction, extreme power, and simple old school aerodynamics, whereas the 2J takes a very forward-thinking and unconservative oddball approach with its unique looks. Of course, it's very unique, and I would say at least 40 years ahead of its time downforce system using the suction fans. It would be 8 years before any other car would use that same system, which ended up being the Brabham BT46B Grand Prix car, which incidentally won its only race by a margin of 30 seconds. Now, considering how rarely used that technology is, it has amazing success in terms of just how quick it can make the cars, and unfortunately the reason why the 2J didn't have more success was primarily due to reliability rather than ability. It was fast enough, but it would keep breaking down. And although the Toyota does have a far higher PP at 757 to this car's 710, they are both remarkably quick machines. But now let's go to the final stage of the match to compare the cars' numbers. Now, both of these cars are extremely quick. That goes without saying, they always have been, ever since they were first introduced on Gran Turismo 4. These were two of the most insane and most uniquely alternative race cars in the game. They were completely different to Le Mans prototypes, but at the same time, very, very adept at destroying Le Mans prototypes in terms of all-round ability and sheer numbers. The 2J has, as I mentioned before, that much more old-school, pure mechanical racing feel to it. It's less forgiving, you're forced to do more of the work, and you've got so much power going through such a lightweight vehicle that you do have to be careful, of course, how much throttle you use. You have to mine the car through corners, and it is much more of a professionally inclined vehicle. The 2J, on the other hand, is much more forgiving. You have a colossal amount of grip regardless of the speed of the car, due to the fact that unlike a rear wing, which needs the car to be going quick to produce downforce, the fan doesn't need that because it runs at speed all the time, which is why the 2J gets out of corners so well. Both vehicles can, of course, throw you into the weeds, but the Chaparral is considerably more beginner-friendly. And as far as pure lap times, I was expecting it to be close. I wasn't sure which car would actually be the quicker of the two around Daytona. Of course, the lap time result is dependent on the driver, the tuning, the track especially, and so, as always, I don't award a point for that. But it is interesting to note that the difference between the two, at least with me driving, was actually bigger than I would have expected. I thought that the Toyota may actually win, due to the fact that it has, more often than not, better numbers than the Chaparral. But the Chaparral won, and not by a small margin. The Toyota, with me driving at least, got a lap of Daytona in 1:29.6. The Chaparral, on the other hand, did it in 1:25.5. That is a significant difference, of course, between the two, especially given just how much higher the PP on the Toyota is. Now, if you compare the cars in a straight line, it's an interesting matchup, because for low-end and also to some degree mid-range acceleration, the Toyota will absolutely destroy the Chaparral. But for top-end acceleration and top speed, the Chaparral will win. Now, both of these cars are extremely rapid overall in a straight line. They're both capable of around or over 290, so they really are well matched. It's more a case of whether you want to be old school or forward thinking in the type of vehicle that you want to drive. Now, as far as sheer numbers, as you can see, the Chaparral and the Toyota both very quickly established dominance over each other in different ways. For sheer engine capacity, for instance, the Chaparral is the clear winner at 7.6 litres to the Toyota's 5. But in other ways, the Toyota immediately gets a victory, such as, for price, it costs less than $2 million to the Chaparral's massive $4.5 million. Now, don't get me wrong, both cars are definitely worth their price, but the point does nonetheless go to the Toyota. So as far as price, the Toyota gets the point. For engine capacity, the Chaparral does. For PP, as we've already mentioned, it again goes to the Toyota, as does it for power, interestingly enough, though both cars are extremely powerful. For torque, it's a slight edge, only 12 foot-pounds more to the Chaparral, but both have a lot of torque. As far as weight, again, both cars are very impressive, but the Toyota weighs a lot less, 201 kilos less to be exact, and that is nothing to be sniffed at. And also, as far as horsepower per tonne, unsurprisingly, given the fact that it is lighter and also more powerful, of course, that point goes to the Toyota at a massive 1,887 horsepower per tonne, which incidentally is one of the highest horsepower per tonne ratios in the game, to the still really impressive 1,267 horsepower per tonne of the Chaparral. Both of these cars are monsters, as we already said, and overall, perhaps surprisingly to some people given how OP the Chaparral is considered to be, the Toyota is actually the winner. The Toyota overall scores 5 points in this battle to the Chaparral's 2, so not necessarily as close a rivalry as you might think. But given the fact that I already mentioned that the Chaparral was around 3 or 4 seconds quicker over one lap of Daytona, which, if you think about it, isn't a particularly large track, just goes to show what I said at the start of this episode and some others, that just because one wins for pure numbers doesn't mean it will always win in reality. This, as all Rivals episodes should be, needs to be considered with the proverbial pinch of salt. This is just for fun. Both of these cars are superb race cars. For me personally, I definitely prefer the Chaparral 2J, hands down, no question. But both cars are brilliant, and today's winner, at least, is the Toyota. But that's it overall for this particular Rivals matchup, and as always, if there are other rivalries that you'd like to see, feel free to slap those in the comments down below. And as I mentioned at the outset of the video, I have put links to solo reviews and tunes for both of these cars that I've done if you would like more info or tuning for them in the description below. But for now, as always, thanks for watching.